Welcome to the Circle Sessions featuring the Circle of Experts. The Circle of Experts are Yasmin Robles from Robles Designs, Tanisha English Amamu of TJE Communications, and Don the Idea Guy. I'm Brett Johnson from Circle 270 Media Podcast Consultants. Each week, one of the Circle of Experts joins me to talk about critical aspects of growing your podcast. We focus on marketing, social media, monetization, and website design to help you implement all of these together. Well, this week, Don is here with Circle of Experts. He possesses creative powers beyond those of mere mortals. Don the Idea Guy rescues those in need of innovative ideas through his brainstorming sessions. They are at $5 brainstorms. I'll get that out. I can always tongue twist over that. That's silly. $5 brainstorms. Still did it. $5 brainstorms. And see, I'm subliminally saying it 3 or 4 times so it really sticks in the listener's head.
Is that what it is? I just think maybe I need to run to GoDaddy real quick and just $5 brainstorms real quick.
So now everybody knows. Would you just say it? Would you just say it, Brett? Now we're in their head. Okay, cool. Hey, Don, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, I just, you went down the list of who are the Circle of Experts, and I realized these episodes are the 2 guys with the most boring names. You've got
I know
Yasmin and Tanisha, and then there's Brett and Don.
Exactly. But we try to ump it up with, you put the idea guy behind it, and I'm doing, my podcast guy. Still doesn't have the twist of the tongue, but at least we're trying to be different.
At least these words are easy for you to say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There was a lot of AI news going on that you found. Well, we both noted in our list, the first one we want to talk about was, Spotify introducing a new promotional tool. Talk a little bit about what you found there.
Yeah. When is AI not in the news every day now? So the article you're talking about is the Spotify is using AI now to do behavioral targeting for podcast promotion. So this is Spotify promoting podcasts within other podcasts by using AI to find the similar audiences. So it's using AI to find similar listener styles. Like if people listen to a lot of crime podcasts, and they will promote the other ones, or if they find out through their data that their crime podcast fans are also business news podcast fans, the AI knows that and can promote it within there. And this tool is intended for podcasters. So I know that we talk a lot to the audience about how to promote their podcast, and this is just one more way. The platform is set up in Spotify's self-serve ad platform, so it's one of the options there now. Just like if you were any other business and you wanted to go in there and buy ads to be featured in a podcast, as a podcaster, you can go in there now and buy promotional packages, promote your podcast across other podcasts using this new AI tool.
Now, so does this go across music as well? I'm trying to read through the PR piece. So if you're
that being a paid member of Spotify, I don't hear your ads. So my guess would be it makes sense for it to cross over into the ads for the music. But I know that the article itself was talking about how it was measuring a lot of the listener information it was getting from its podcast listenership to promote it to other podcasters. So I would imagine that could also depend on the packages that are available within their self-serve advertising tool as well.
Right. It makes sense. Well, and then I noted in the PR piece that the Morning Brew podcast was one of the first podcast publishers to beta test it, which that's a good beta tester right there. Morning Brew podcast is they picked a good one to get in and kick the tires.
Although I would really have liked to see them try with somebody in a podcast that I haven't heard of. I mean, most people, Morning Brew podcast is one of the most popular podcasts out there. So I'd rather hear them try something with, Joe's Local Pet Shop podcast and see how it did to grow their audience than Marketing Brews, than Morning Brew. But it's cool to see them have a high profile user of it. They do talk about that the best practices in there. They want to make sure the creators are making sure that their promotion clearly states their podcast name. If it's a branded show, so it makes a clear connection with the other podcasts. And they also said to hook the listeners, don't give away too much in your spot. That you want to arouse their curiosity, so they will click over and sample your podcast.
Yeah.
It's
But
teasers.
but yeah, and I also noticed here too, it also recommends promoting a podcast back catalog to training current events, but it also suggests not saying too much. So it's telling you to do 4 or 5 things, but don't say too much.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that the goal? They're
Yeah,
30
exactly.
seconds long. So you
Right,
don't
right.
have it has to be 30 seconds or less.
Yeah,
But I think that promoting the back catalog is good advice that
yeah,
we've given in past
yeah,
episodes.
yeah.
You don't always want to promote your latest podcast. You want to tease all these great episodes that they have, because once people find a podcast, they tend to binge a bit and listen to a bunch of episodes. As a matter of fact, going back to the first season, which most podcasters, if they've lasted more than one season, have
Mhm.
dramatically improved from there. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your best stuff up and available.
Yeah, this is pretty cool stuff because it's too bad Apple didn't jump on this early. But again, Apple didn't really, they don't care about podcasters per se as much as Spotify has at least portrayed themselves to do so. And they've bought some tools and they've created some tools that it's showcasing it. But it's this cool, I think, a cool factor of that we're breaking podcasts and the breaking down the DNA. So
Yep.
it's that the meme of your listener. Okay, who is it? And if your audience is on Spotify, this is a great tool for you.
And I
This is a
think
great
Apple had
tool.
a different tactic on this from the beginning. It was all about getting in there new and notable. You
Yeah,
know, they. I
right.
know you've got an article to talk about later about how Apple ranks podcasts.
Mhm.
And I don't want to give too much of
Yeah.
that away now, but they had a different thing. It wasn't promoting your podcast inside of other people's podcasts. It was promoting it on the front page of iTunes
Mhm.
and Apple Podcasts. The other is, speaking of AI news, there was just information released last week saying that Apple was going to be supporting Google's Gemini AI tool. So
I saw that.
I think Apple's in last place for AI right now,
Yeah.
and I don't think they're in a position to use AI tools to promote podcasts
Yeah.
or anything else right now.
Yeah. Well, and another sidebar on this tool by Spotify is that if you happen to see or, pay attention to your feed on Spotify and hear podcasts that are popping up or being suggested by Spotify that correlates with your podcast, all of a sudden you've got a lead on who you should be a guest on or try to cross promote on. You know,
True. I mean, you
yeah.
could end up striking a nice side deal
Yes.
rather than relying on the AI to pick it out. But
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see what their matching is like too. Do they tell you in advance
Mhm.
which pieces it's going to promote you on, which episodes, which
Yeah.
shows it's going to promote yours on, or do you just find out later?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of additional information to take note of that, we're Spotify approved to promote each other kind of feel to it. I mean, there could be
Yeah.
some wording to that effect that's, yeah, Spotify knows that you're going to like our podcast and you're going to like their podcast. Join us, that sort of thing. So, kind
The
of neat. Yeah.
I thought the other interesting thing was that information, that article was based on podcast promoting in other podcasts
Mhm.
versus AI's ability to help advertisers in general target podcasts. Odyssey just
Yeah.
started talking about their new AI tool that allows podcast ad targeting in their advertising tool. So as an advertiser, you can go into Odyssey, or your Odyssey rep can go in and use AI to find podcasts that your business should be advertising in. And it's contextual because they're using AI to scrub the podcasts and do uh, the uh, the transcripts.
Mhm.
So the AI is doing a transcript specifically to find places where advertising would be in context for your brand.
Right. So you could either trick the transcript and think about, okay, we're going to have a Pepsi break about every 10 minutes in our podcast and try to attract Pepsi to sponsor. It all depends on the contextuality of what the AI is looking for. I'm assuming it's going to feel the rhythm, feel the flow of the conversation. But you could have a benchmark of a sponsorable part of your podcast that is very approachable by a coffee company, or just kind of set it up as such and kind of see
Yeah,
if
I think the
maybe.
nice thing about the AI doing the transcript, hopefully it's good AI and it will be um, contextual,
Yeah.
because I know for just digital advertising in general, uh, for a while, these ad reps would go to companies like, let's say, an airline, and they'd say, well, every time we do an article on our newspaper website about airlines or flying, your ad's going to appear on the page. Well, what happened is it's searching for keywords instead of
Mhm.
context. And there's a big article about an airline crash or some malfunction in the Boeing engines, and there's an ad for Fly Delta uh,
Yeah.
on that ad, and it became a scramble to take those ads down when it was bad context.
Mhm.
So with the AI crawling the transcript, I'm hoping it will actually be in intelligent context.
Well, and this also has the opportunity of sounding really bad too. So if they're just digitally inserting ads near that contextual concept, let's say again, it's a break sponsored by, or you're talking about yeah, anything, and it grabs it, but it's digitally inserting an ad in the middle of a conversation. I would
Well,
hope it's smarter than that.
yeah, I mean, your Odyssey is an established
Yeah.
radio brand. I mean, they're obviously not doing so well in the media. They recently had to file bankruptcy, like a lot of other radio brands. But they should understand ad traffic better than your average
I would
podcaster.
hope so.
So I think that they're going to have clocks like
Yeah.
they would. I think that as a podcaster in their network, you're going to say, yes, you can do a pre roll. Yes, you can do a mid roll. Yes, you can
Mhm.
do a post roll. And those ads are going to be inserted where you've allowed them to be inserted.
Right.
I don't think it's just going to be, here's a word Pepsi, quick, put in a Pepsi ad. I
Yeah.
don't think that they would do that.
I would hope not. But, and, on the backside of that too, that does lean more toward, podcasters really, fine tuning what they're doing with their content. Kind of think in chapters form of breaking. Let's like our podcast, our episode right now, the Circle Sessions. We know we'll have 3 or 4 segments of a different news article. Well, any podcaster can do that. You know that if you have a half hour, 45-minute podcast, where are those quote unquote chapter marks? When do you change your thought? When do you go into something a little bit different or that next idea, that sort of thing? That may help you create a better podcast as well by doing
Yeah,
that thought
we've
process
we've
ahead of time.
we've done our seminars and webinars
Mhm,
on podcast programming. We've
mhm,
always recommended good content, structured content. Um, but even just babbling, the nice thing about AI, if even if you're just babbling in an episode, as long as you've said you can insert an ad here,
mhm.
which many podcasters are using tools that are helping them select that. Do you want one ad or three ads, and where do you want them to go in? I think those tools have become more intelligent. I think it's harder to just fill a program with those ads because so many of these ads are being sold by networks now
Yeah,
that they need reliable content that's not
yeah,
overfilled with advertising. Um, I, I don't think you run into the same problems that you used to with the I'm recording this in my basement kind of a thing, and I'm not very aware of the platform anymore. I think so many people are
yeah,
starting podcasts specifically to monetize it that they know they have to monetize it intelligently. You always have the outliers. You also have the radio stations that fill a bunch of ads in,
yeah.
10 ads in their break, and you never hear any of the music they're playing too. So it's you never know what you're going to get. It's always up to the individual who's doing the production.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I have, consulted with a couple of podcasters that are starting out, and they just, picking my brain initially, really we never got into a contract situation, but they are in the business realm of just, 4 or 5 guys sitting around talking about their world of business or their entrepreneurs, how they're going about it and such, but they really don't have an idea what they're doing. They
Yeah,
just think putting it down.
but if they're using a platform um, that does those intelligent ad insertions, like what's the host you're always using?
Captivate FM.
Captivate. So Captivate has those tools. They
Mhm.
say, do you want a pre-roll ad? Do you want a mid-roll? Do you want a post-roll? Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you put in where you are allowing an ad insert. So that's kind of the beauty of this AI, I think, is that if
Yeah.
you have just a five guys jabbering on about anything that crosses their mind, the AI is going to be smart enough to find something in there that it could put an ad in for.
I could.
Uh,
It's true. It's true.
and if
Yeah.
they're using
Yeah.
something like Captivate, where they said, yes, I want ads, and here's where I want you to put
Mhm.
them in, it actually might improve their show.
Well, that's where I was going with it too, that they're not really walking into it with that concept, but they might accidentally fall into something like
Yep.
that. They might,
Right. Like the
especially
AI is gonna be smart enough to pull the theme out of the show.
right, or if nothing else, if they would at least think of chapters of at least where are the transition points that would make sense to put something in digitally. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you get on a roll, I'm not gonna rely on them to do it, but if
No.
the
Yeah.
AI knows that there's a mid-roll and it's
Mhm.
gonna do the transcript up to the mid-roll and it has to pick an ad that matches best, that would be very interesting to see what happens.
It would be. Yeah, exactly. I did
So
find oh,
so
go
now
ahead.
you've got AI that's helping
Mhm.
podcasters promote themselves in other podcasts. You've got AI that combs podcasts to insert the ads. At what point do we just have an AI audience? It's AI listeners. I
True.
mean,
It could turn into that, I guess, that's true.
I did find our buddy Lee
Yeah.
Hill over in Great Britain has launched
Mhm.
a new project. His Lee Launches platform
Yeah,
called
right.
launchcast.com that it uses AI to launch a podcast. Like you literally type in a box what you want your podcast to be about, and it comes up with the script, and you can approve the script as is, or you can tweak it, and then you push another button, and you can pick from one of 6 voices
Mhm.
that it'll use AI to voice the podcast for you, and then it's got an AI art thing that'll generate the art for you. Like when you're done, you just download it and upload it to your podcast platform. So now that's an AI podcast that uses AI to promote it in other podcasts that uses AI to insert ads.
Yeah.
No humans required.
No humans required. Yeah, so you don't even have to get emotional, unless you
No.
have, unless you train your Launchcast voice to be emotional or whatever, but yeah, you know what, and I played with his tool a little bit. Those voices are really good.
Oh,
They re
it's great. I
and
think
I
my biggest issue with it right now is there's the time box. I think it can only be like 5 minutes or something.
yeah,
Maybe not
yeah,
even that.
yeah,
It's very
yeah.
short.
Yeah, and whether he named it after me or not, but he does have one voice named Brett, and it's good. It's really good.
Wow.
See, I
Maybe because
know.
it was just easy to say.
And maybe it was, I don't know. Give him
I
a
know there
give
certainly isn't a Don or a Tanisha or a Yasmin.
I know, exactly. So, I won by default or whatever. I'll have to get a hold of him.
Wow.
Tell him we talked about him in this podcast. He can insert an ad right at the very beginning
Oh,
of
the ads
that,
are great too.
there we go. Yeah, yeah,
The
exactly.
ads the
Yeah.
the tool does a really good job
Mhm.
of having the sponsor ad in it and
Yeah.
writing the segue even
Yeah.
into the ad. It does a better job than some radio DJs I've heard.
Yeah. It does pretty good job. Yeah, he's ahead
It's
of the curve on
impressive.
it. It's good. Yeah, it's
I
good.
hope he
It's
continues to develop it.
Yeah, we need to get him on the podcast actually just to kind of talk it out and see where he's coming from, where it's, how it's been received, what the feedback he's getting from podcasters as well too of how he's tweaking it was I'm assuming, he's always
Yeah,
open. He's always open
he
to
was
ideas.
building this out. I was having discussions with him on how to make a longer podcast. Like, could you,
Mm,
even if you broke it down into 3 5-minute increments, I could end up with a 15-minute podcast.
mhm.
I'd be down with that. It
Yeah.
works off of credits for the AI. I know when you sign up, you get a certain number of credits free, so you can take it for
Yeah.
a test drive.
Mhm.
He's a friend of the show, so link him up in the show notes and let
Yeah.
people try it out for
Yeah.
free and let us know what they think about it. I thought it was pretty amazing. It was
Yeah,
better
it is.
than the voices were way better than I expected them to be.
Yes. Yeah, really. Yeah, for sure. Because I did some playing and had it record some stuff. It would, you're gonna have to do a little bit of editing, like it may say the
Yeah,
words too quickly, but you could actually put pause, parentheses, and it would pause. It
yeah.
knows what you're saying to tell it to
It
do.
did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job. I tested it for one of
Yeah.
my clients, and
Yeah.
I was impressed. If he had a 15-minute
Mhm.
limit on it, I'd be using this now for the client because
Yeah.
they don't have time to produce a podcast,
Right.
but they have time to generate content, and this thing can do
Mhm.
the podcast. It's amazing. I
Yeah.
I think he went from this project onto another one
Mhm.
that's already in development, and he's launching with another partner. I think this was kind of a side
Mhm.
bridging project. So now that other one is launched, I hope he comes back to it because it was cool as hell. I think it had all kinds of potential.
Mhm. Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Kind of an AI thing. Ausha unveils exclusive study with about Apple Podcast algorithm. It's ever since the dawn of time, everybody's trying to break the Apple Podcast algorithm to be on the new and noteworthy and all this kind of stuff. But the research reveals actionable tactics for influencing Apple Podcast search results, which we all know that's a terrible platform to do search anyway. But they say that, they survey or analyze, over 1,000 keywords and more than 7 million search results to uncover what concretely affects a podcast's rank in Apple Podcasts. The results are basically keyword stuffing when it comes
Yeah,
down to
yeah,
it.
that was my input on
Ultimately.
this as well.
Yeah,
I'm always interested when people do a study to see what's working, but unfortunately, everything they revealed in the study are all the things that you get penalized on SEO
yeah,
results for now. Like, they're talking about stuff that the tricks that you used to get around the Google algorithm to get on the
mhm,
front page of Google. It's keyword stuffing and metadata and using the word 7 times in your
mhm,
description. And Google has been smart enough to push down and suppress and penalize people who are doing
right,
that. I can only imagine it is a matter of time and a short period of time at that before Apple will penalize you. Apple
right.
doesn't like people gaming their system. They are not going to let this work for long because it's such basic crap. It is use your
Mhm,
keyword at least 5 times in the show description.
right,
We've all read people who have done that in their show descriptions. It is a terrible show description.
mhm.
It's not meant to be read by a human. It's meant to be read by these algorithms, and it will not stand. It is not going to last long.
Right, and on top of that as well, and I use, a transcription service, which I love. It's called Cast Magic. They're not paying me to say anything about it, but it's a beautiful, fantastic, easy to use AI for transcription, then turns into what we call podcast assets, anything you want. And even that has its own problems because it loves to use the word delve. The guests delve into this. They delve into that, and I see that word show up in so many podcast show notes. It's like you're using Cast Magic. You're
Yeah.
using Cast Magic. You did what my point is. Go in and change the word. Make
Yeah.
it sound like it's you writing the show notes,
Or
or
at least
or
tell your AI not to use
yeah,
that delve. Without using the word delve, write me a show description.
exactly, or whatever other word that just shows up all the time. Stop it. Just stop it. Exactly,
Or
exactly.
use
So
the AI to give me 5 other options to use other than delve. I
yeah,
think of it in
yeah.
terms of the movie previews. It's always in a world. Every movie preview starts with in a
In
world,
a world, exactly, exactly. So that was a very 80s, very
right?
80s thing. Yeah,
And you knew it was
exactly.
like, oh, it was produced by that studio because
Right.
in a world
World, right.
where
Yeah.
podcasts have an AI algorithm, one man chose to write his podcast descriptions by hand.
Right, right, exactly. He was alone, very alone. But then he met whatever, some kind of love story, that's yeah, talked about twists and turns, exactly.
Here's the other thing I
Uh,
really love in this article, and I want you to do this on the fly. I want you to come up with this example. You ready?
mhm.
Include your best keyword at least 5 times in an episode title.
Yeah,
Give me an episode title
yeah.
that uses your best keyword 5 times.
Yeah, I saw that too.
The
It
marketing podcast about marketing for marketing for
yeah,
today's marketing professionals in the world of
in
marketing.
the world of marketing. Yeah, it's a podcast about podcasts where we
We
focus
delve
on
into marketing
podcasts. Yeah, we delve into marketing.
in a world with
Exactly.
podcasts about
Right.
marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a show title, an episode title like that. That's just moronic. I'm sorry.
It can lead to an average gain of 7 positions in the search results.
So from 100 to 93. Good going. Right. Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
I mean, your show title is going to sound like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. One, and you might, yeah, podcast. We're going to talk about podcasts today. Yeah, there's
This is a
4 right
marketing
there.
podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Marketing Podcast. We're a podcast about marketing for marketing and podcast professionals who do podcasts about marketing.
Yeah. And you have only X amount of space to put your title in
Yeah,
anyway. So it's going to go dot, dot, dot. So you got
it's
to use the
just,
subtitle.
oh my God, it's just a
It,
terrible
it's terrible.
example of
Well,
what to do.
yeah.
And This came out March 15th
I
of
know.
this
It's
year.
very
How is
recent.
I hope this doesn't work already. I hope
I
this is
know.
already outdated and it won't work. And you try and do that and it goes, "What the hell are you thinking?"
Yeah, I know. I know. It's gonna come back to haunt them. But at least I'm not gonna blame them per se, but it's just like, but you did publish your results, and
Yeah.
people are, um, the non, well, the early stage podcaster is going to go, there we go. That's the trick. We could just have to stuff it. Let's stuff it.
And I'm
Yeah.
not sure who Asha is. I never heard of them before, but
I,
it
I
starts out with Asha, a pioneer in podcast marketing.
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway.
You know what happened to the pioneers?
Yes, I
They
do.
died from dysentery
They died from dysentery, exactly.
and
Oh my
arrow
gosh.
wounds.
Yeah, yeah, and that may be what happens here too, exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah. We had talked about this finally, we had talked about doing this. We kinda joked about it maybe a couple of episodes ago about not really roasting, but reviewing podcasts. If
Oh,
anybody
did you
wanna
want to delve into this topic?
let's delve into this, for podcasters who want a podcast to become a better podcaster. Yes. God, we're a keyword stuffing the transcript this time, that's for sure.
In a world where
Yeah.
people want to become better podcasters,
We had talked about this,
five professionals in the circle of experts.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
AI and 4 others, exactly.
I've seen other people doing this for a variety of industries.
Mhm.
I liked doing this for landing pages, where you basically do a landing page teardown, or somebody sends you a PowerPoint and you do a PowerPoint teardown, and you run through it in real time. You record the screen and you just give them feedback on everything you're looking at. There were a lot of website teardowns where somebody just goes through the website, clicks on the pages, gives feedback. Landing page. Well, it's a one-page landing page. Here's how you're going to improve your results, or here's some things to get your form closer to the top of the page, or weed out people who aren't interested. And I always found those to be quick bits of review that, as long as the person has kind of a thick skin, because you can,
Oh,
as
yeah.
you're running through something briefly, you don't have time to be nice. You're just going to go, well, I'm not sure why you did this. And you're not live on the call with them so they can explain it. You're just saying, here's the page. I'm running through it. Here's how I perceive it. Your mileage may vary, but here's one guy's opinion of what you put together. Take what you can use, leave the rest behind. And in a previous episode, we talked about doing that for podcasts, like listening to a podcast or visiting a podcast page, and giving people feedback from the 5 different perspectives of the circle of experts. And I think a week after we said that, I saw that Justin Jackson, who I've been a longtime fanboy,
Mhm.
started doing this with another guy who does podcast consulting named Jeremy Enns.
Right.
The videos I saw were on Jeremy Enns' YouTube channel, but Justin Jackson has been promoting it in his email newsletter, and they've got 5 or 6 episodes now where they're doing podcast roasts, and somebody will send them a podcast link and they go down the page and they roast it. They just go, here are the keywords and why are you calling yourself number one? Anybody calls them number one and themselves number one in anything, I think is immediately suspect. It's been really interesting feedback, and it's 2 guys doing a roast of somebody's podcast page. And I really wanted to do this with our group, and I think it would be interesting to have the 5 different perspectives, that whether it's all at once where we kind of on a Zoom call and all 5 of us are
Yeah.
weighing in, or you're going to it's I think you, as our circle of experts host, I think that maybe you bring in each of the experts and maybe you do a breakdown of, this one we're going to mainly focus on social media, or
Mhm.
this one we're going to talk about the marketing, or this one we're going to talk about the web page. Um, so whether you did it individually or as a group, I thought it would be really cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can link up to the Jeremy Enns, a couple of their
Okay.
podcasts, or at least the channel, and people can search them out for themselves. And if any of our listeners want to have that done with the circle of experts, I'd definitely be up for doing that. I think it would
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And we would take it from the standpoint of we want to help you be better. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's be ready to have your baby be called ugly, and that's okay because it's only going to help you to be better. So, everything going to be better. Just needs a second, third, fourth pair of eyes.
I mean,
Uh,
we'll point out the things we think are
yeah,
cool too.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, we're going to point out the things we want you to improve. If we just go to the perfect one and go, oh, this is fantastic, I wouldn't change a
yeah.
thing. One, I think that's highly improbable. Two,
Mhm.
I don't think anybody gets any value out of it.
Right.
I think you have to look at the piece and go, hey, you know what? This is really good. I think you can make it even better by doing this.
Yeah.
And if you want to make changes, great, make the changes. If you don't, call us idiots and ignore us.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfectly fine. It's your call.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, exactly. It certainly will. It certainly will because you've been podcasting with this podcast a lot longer than we have. We just saw it,
Eh,
and we're tearing apart from the outside looking in.
and we're looking at one
Yeah,
thing, right? So,
yeah,
you might go, oh, well, you picked the latest episode was as good as my fifth episode. Well, you could send us to the fifth one.
yeah.
I don't want
Right.
to listen to an hour long podcast. I'll go to a page and
Hmm.
we can read the words and how you promoted it and the image you used for the album
Sure.
art on that one. But I think I think if listeners have an interest in
Yeah.
having kind of a teardown or a roast of the page or
Hmm.
a feedback circle, I don't a circle of feedback. I don't know. We have to come up with a cool name for it.
Yeah.
But go on, check out these sample ones from Jeremy and Justin. See, it's pretty much what I had in mind.
Hmm.
Um, if it's something you think, our listeners, if it's something a listener thinks would value, tell us you're up for it. Tell us at your
Yeah.
game and send us a link, and
Yeah.
we'll move it up on our priority list, and we'll put you at the front of the line.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I will put a link in the show notes. Just basically an email. Email me, and specific to this, and yeah, we'll put it together and kind of figure it out. Even whether we take a look at it, maybe you come on board with us as well. Maybe you're in the Zoom call, whatever. If you're open to
I
it
think
too.
we have to turn the mic off. I don't want to hear people making excuses or whining
True,
about. Yeah,
true. Yeah, you can't talk. You just have to listen and nod.
no, no,
No, no.
no.
True. It'd be a lot easier without it. So no, bad
Because it
idea. See,
it'd be
already a
like
bad idea. Yeah,
those celebrity roasts where they have the comedians up on stage and the
yeah,
subject of the roast sits in the chair.
yeah. And
They don't
never
get to say anything.
say anything. Yeah, exactly. Sweat it
Yeah.
out, laugh it out. Right. Exactly. Get
Yep.
embarrassed. That's a good point. Good point. Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you for any other ideas that we've talked about, just want to pick your brain on some, brainstorming that they need to do for some ideas for a podcast episode or for the podcast themselves, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I'd say go to 5Bruck Brainstorm, but
Yeah,
apparently it's very difficult to say. So just
it
go to
is.
dontheideaguy.com. dontheideaguy.com. You can find me on your favorite social media platform. I'm there, even on Twitter, even though Twitter usage is down how much?
By 10, 15%. Yeah,
10 or
exactly.
15%.
Yeah,
I'm
something like
still
that.
there.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah, I haven't touched X in a while. So
There's no value there anymore, but
yeah, no, no, no.
X,
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 X, X, X. They X themselves out. Exactly.
the
If you
X
need,
Twitter.
yeah, exactly. If you need a little help with your podcast or just want to pick my brain about where you're going with your podcast, you can go to
How should they find you, Brett?
mypodcastguy.com. And I'm the only one in the world that cannot say $5 brainstorms. Oh, I did it. I got it.
5Brett Brainstorms.
Yeah, there you go. No, mypodcastguy.com. Exactly. So hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Give us some comments, some reviews. Email us as well. We love the feedback. If you want us to cover something, if we missed a news article, it's like you want our insights on something, we'll do it too. We can't cover the news completely. We don't even dare say we do. So yeah, exactly.
No, but I'm working on an AI that will cover all of the AI news.
Right. Heard it here first. Thanks for joining me,
Created
Don.
by AIs for AIs.
Exactly.
Aye.
Aye, aye. That'll do
Bye.
it. Bye. Exactly. Oh my gosh.